Hello, this is the FTM-500 transceiver. It's a great mobile transceiver, a great little base station transceiver, UHF, VHF, and true dual receive in it as well. And it has a few clever tricks that makes it very easy to operate. So let's show you some of that. First thing we're going to do, obviously, is switch it on. There, and you notice my call sign came up there underneath the Yaesu logo. And actually that's the first thing that happens. If you get this out of the box and switch it on for the very first time, it gives you the option to input your call sign. Why? Well, because if you want to use it on the digital mode, if you want to use C4FM, if it's not got a call sign put into it, it won't let you on there, because the whole point of that is you can't turn up unannounced on digital because it always shows your call sign on the other person's radio. So you just go into the function list and you go into 121, and there you go, up comes your keypad and you can type in the details of your call sign. And we'll see this used quite a lot. There's a back button here. When we want to get out of anything, we just press back and we end up back where we started. Like most modern rigs, this radio takes a micro SD card, and that's going to be really useful because it means that you can save all the settings on the radio, and also you can do some clever stuff like voice recording and so on. So we'll just power it off. There we go. Make sure that you have clicked it fully home and then switch the radio back on. And we know now that there's an SD card in here because when you look on the screen that the letters SD have now appeared here, which tells us we've got a SD card in there. And you are going to need to format it. So to do that, we go into the function menu and we go down to 109. Where are we? 109, format. Press that. Do we want to format? Yes, we do. And there it goes, formatting away. And then once that's formatted, the SD card can be used for recording QSOs. You can get it to record stuff off scanning, as we'll show you later, or you can record your own voice messages if, like me, you're too lazy to call CQ yourself. So you can see we have our dual receive running here, which operate entirely independently, and you can monitor on the two different VFOs either the same band, different modes, same modes. You can have different bands, different modes, but they are both working as receivers all the time. We've got independent volume controls, and if I just press the volume control in like that, I can adjust the squelch, and the same applies for this one. But it's only this top one here that is going to be your one that you transmit on. So when you want to transmit, you have to flick, if it's a frequency on the bottom here you want to use, you flick it up to the top. But on the display, and I'll show you how you do that in a minute, but on the display here, we can see the two VFOs set up on two different frequencies. Let's just talk through some of the controls here. And the first one that we have is GM, and that's to do with when you're using it in digital mode for creating groups. So we won't worry about that for the moment. And the one next to it is the Wires X button. Now, Wires X has a whole separate manual that you can download from Yaesu to explain how it works. But this is a Wires X compatible radio, which means you can, with the optional cable kit, connect it to a PC and you can use it as a node. And also, if you press the Wires X button, if you want to access somebody else's node and use Wires X as your means of connecting through a node, through the internet, to rooms around the world. So that's what your Wires X button does. The next button along is one that definitely will come in useful. It's labelled SDX. And what that is what we used to call in the old days a preamp. And I could just show you what that means. What it does is its sensitivity DX is what it stands for. Golf 0, Foxtrot, Golf X-ray. Just checking access, no need to reply, but just checking access at the moment. There we go. And if I press the SDX button, you can see that jump in the received signal strength. And you can hear the difference in the background noise as well. I take it out. The next button along has an arrow pointing up and an arrow pointing down, which is the one that will swap which way round. We have these. Now, the top one is always the one you're going to transmit on. So if there's something on this bottom receiver that you decide you want to talk to, you're going to need to flip it up to the top so that you can talk to it. So you can flip them backwards and forwards like that. The other thing that you can do when you come to this next button, which is marked display, is one press of that And we've now turned into just seeing the top frequency that we've got in there. And all this little jiggery-pokery going along the bottom is the band scope. So you've gone into the band scope screen by doing that. And this is showing activity on the band. And you can actually tap on any of these. I think some of these might be QRM, by the way, they're jumping around actually. But if there was a strong signal came up on another oh, there's one there, look, if I tap on him, there we go, he appears on our bottom screen. And the last button along here is the on and off switch, which we don't need at the moment. So let's have a look at the buttons on the front of the radio. I've shown you the volume and squelch knobs for each of those two receivers. And by the way, you can have them both on the same band. And as this is a wideband receive, as well as we'll see in a minute, you've got quite a lot of options into what you can be monitoring on each of these. So it can be different bands, same band, different modes. There's a lot of possibilities there. Then going to this side, this is our function button. So a long press of that gets us into our big function menu, which we've already seen earlier, where we can go through all the stuff that we can set up. And this one down here is going to give me control of that bottom receiver if I want to change the frequency manually. Next, across here, this button is marked PMG. That's Priority Memory Group. And if you press that, that's just our 5 favourite memories, and you can very easily load them across from your main memories. But also, this is rather cunning, when it's displaying this, it's also put the scope up on the bottom, and that rather wonderful thing happens, whereas I'm listening here at the moment on 156, but were another repeater to miraculously spring up, I'm going to cheat here, Golf 0, Foxtrot, Golf X-Ray, G0, FGX. There we go, that's the Torbay repeater, and I can touch that and it appears there in my bottom receiver. And we can now carry on monitoring that if we want to, or we could bring it up to the top and use it as our main channel, and we could talk to whoever's appeared on there. One thing Yaesu are very proud of with the FTM-500 is their AESS speaker system, which is their acoustic enhanced speaker system. How is it enhanced? Well, that's because there's a speaker here on the top of the radio, which they refer to as the rear speaker actually in the manual, but it's on top. And there's also a speaker in the front of the removable head on the radio. And if we go into our function menu 18 and we go to audio equalizer, and then we can set what we want for the front and rear speaker. Now at the moment I've got the front switched off and the rear has 100%, but it gives me the opportunity to make changes, so I can set the tone flat, or I can change the pitch of the front speaker and the rear speaker how I want them. And you can actually adjust the phase between the two of them as well. So I think the idea of this really is so that you can tailor the volume of this to your particular vehicle if you're using it mobile or whatever environment you're using it in. There's a lot of power here. There's 9 watts on the speakers combined. So you can adjust the treble, the bass, whatever, just so it cuts through. You can even use it in your tractor. And we have a band switch down here. So if we press that, we can step through the various bands that the radio covers, because it is wideband. So we're going basically from about 108 megs all the way through to 999.9, and it does divide them up into bands. Let's take a look at how the memories work then. If I press the memory button, I was in VFO, so I'm going to put myself into memories, and we've got a little green light at the top here with M all written in it. Now this is because the radio will divide up the memories by band. So if I were to step through the band that this covers, and that's the air band there, it automatically switches to AM for air band. So you can step through your modes here on the top, and we can step through the bands down here, so we can start off in the band we want to be in. Then if we're trying to find a frequency, we can hold this button in here, which is our VFO button, and up comes, if we give it a long push, we can input a frequency manually, or a short push and the megahertz will flash and we can whiz up or down that way to get near the frequency that we actually want. And when we come to a frequency that we like, so We can pick any old frequency at random here. So let's go for something up here. Okay, we like the look of 152990. And I don't know if anything ever turns up on this frequency. And of course, it's not in an amateur band. Don't worry, I can't transmit there because it'll be TX inhibited. But I can monitor that frequency. So I'll add it to my list because I fancy scanning it for some reason. So to do that, all we do is we give a long press and up comes our list of memories. It will automatically have selected the next blank one, but it could be I want to overwrite another memory. So if that was the case, I'd scroll up and down. But when I've got it where I want it, another long press. Right, and then if we long press again to go into our memory list, we can see it's now added that one there. So that's been added to our memories. And once it's written in there, you might think, do you know what, I'd like to give it a name, that frequency. So if you want to do that, if we just touch there, we get the option to edit it. So we can just edit and into the tag box there, and we could type in a name for it. And also underneath it, which is quite useful, it says scan yes. So we can decide whether or not we want that channel to appear when we're scanning. We could change that to no if I want that channel to be skipped when we're in scan mode. One other interesting thing to note here with our function button, if we give it a long push, we get the whole list, absolutely everything. But if you give it a short press, up comes what they call the CFL, which is essential functions, the ones that we want to be able to get to just at one touch. So I think it's another good convenience function. So I've got in here the step, whether I'm using a tone squelch or not. So I've got toning code on the channel I'm in at the moment. You can change the display mode is a useful one to be able to get into. I'll talk about that in a moment. To change the tone, it's really easy because I can just now go into there and adjust the tone for that channel. And what's clever about this is you could go into a memory channel that you've already created, so maybe a repeater, and you go, oh, what I want to do is change the tone on this channel. So you'd go into there, change the tone. You haven't got to put it into the memory in any way. Just change the tone there, select it and come out of it, and it will have put it on that channel, and it will just remember that until you went into that particular channel and changed it again. But if you're thinking, oh, okay, well, this hasn't got all the things that I want to add something to this. Well, if we come out of it and give it a long press over in the full list, we can go to any other thing that's in our full list here. So let's go repeater shift, give it a long press. Now, it's now brought up our little small list of much used functions. And if I move that around like that, I can pick a position that I would like that one to occupy. It'll kick out what's in there at the moment. And if I give that a long press, while we're in the CFL, actually, I'll just show you something that I saved in there, which I rather like, is display mode. So if I tap on that, there's a menu here that I can step through, and GPS information. Well, let's just have a look at that. And this has built-in GPS. And as you can see, we're indoors, but plugged into our external antenna, and it's still picking up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 GPS satellites, and it's got our location and everything else, and it will also send the same information on APRS. And the radio has a whole menu section for setting it up for APRS so that you can bleep your location to people as you're driving along, or you can run it as a beacon, and all kinds of stuff that you can do there. So that's all enabled on here. And if we also have a quick look in our CFL under display mode, another option which I rather like is the clock. That'll be the most accurate clock in your shack because it's getting its time from the GPS. And if we want to get out of that, bang, there we are, back on the screen we were on before. Also in my CFL, I've got scan. So if I hit that, because we're in VFO, that's just started scanning through the whole band that we're in. Or I can actually start the scan by just pressing the up or down button on the mic to start scanning in that direction. If I go into our memories, this is where it gets interesting because we've got a green M all, which means we've got all the memories in this scan. So if I just hit that, off it goes, scanning its way through all the memories I put in there. But what I could do, if we press the band button, we'll see this changes, and it actually will group the memories by the band that they're in. So this has now changed, and it says M air. So this memory is just all the channels that I've put in there that are in the air band. So if I hit scan there, now it's just scanning my airband frequencies. So I think that's quite a useful thing, the memory grouping, that you can just scan the stuff you want. And as we mentioned before, we've also got our primary memory group, and we could just look at those, and we could also put those on scan if we want. Of course, being a modern Yaesu rig, this has got C4 FM or Fusion, and it's a great digital mode. They call it DN. As you can see here, we're at the moment on 145.625, so we could just go round to memory 79 on here, put it on my hotspot frequency, which is 436. And the great thing about doing this with C4 FM is there's no magic jiggery pokery, no code plugs. It just integrates the action of this into the function of the radio. In other words, you pick a channel, any channel, and you just choose your mode. So your mode could be FM or your mode could be DN. And if you want to communicate digitally, you just pick your channel, so 436 here, and you put it on DN, which I have ready to go. No color codes or any other complications, and my hotspot is already connected to a particular C4 FM room. So all I've got to do is press the key, Golf 0 Foxtrot Golf X-ray testing, and away we go, straight into the hotspot. Perfect. I really like that aspect of the integration of the functionality of the digital straight into the rest of the radio, and the fact that that is demonstrated very well by the fact that if you have it on auto mode, you can pick any channel, and as it's monitoring, it will decide whether it's an FM signal or whether it's a digital signal, and it will respond accordingly. We can demonstrate that nicely because if I go here, I've gone back into VFO, we've got a simplex channel here, and we're on FM at the moment. But if I press the mode button once, we've taken it into auto monitoring now, where it will decide whether the incoming signal is an FM signal or a digital signal. So in the unlikely event that somebody were to give us a call on DN or C4 FM, there we go, it recognised that and it's told us it's G1 IAR. That call sounds familiar. Golf 1 India Alpha Romeo, this is Golf 0 Foxtrot Golf X-ray. Are you hearing me digitally and wonderfully?
I'm hearing you digitally and wonderfully and very clearly. Are you hearing me okay on C4 FM?
Very much so. Nice clear audio and a nice demonstration of the fact that it's just really easy to set up a simplex QSO. Presumably it's the same if you're using a repeater. You just go to the repeater channel, set it up in the normal way, and there's no clever stuff to access the repeater. Just put it in the mode that you want to use.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to have set your radio up to get into repeaters with either FM or digital, but the repeater will auto-sense what signal it's receiving, and you are good to go. So if, for example, digital mode is better than the analog FM mode, just go with digital.
Okay, thanks, Mike. So there we are. We've proved how straightforward that is. And there is one last clever feature on here, because we put the SD card in earlier on, and of course that's useful for being able to share your settings, because you could download all the settings of the radio onto the SD card. You can, as I say, record your voice for calling CQ, etc. But you can also, rather cunningly, leave the radio monitoring when you're not there and hear what it's heard when you get back. And I've just called up my handy list of my favourite functions, and one of them here is record and stop. If I just press record, there we go, it's put record up there, and if I come out of it now into the main screen, if you just look at the top here, a pause button. Now it's set up just monitoring to itself. If it hears anything appear on this channel, it will record it for us. So here we are, we're monitoring this channel, Golf 0 Foxtrot Golf X-ray, Golf 0 Foxtrot Golf X-ray, just testing, no need to reply. And you can see it's changed to red, it's recording. And as soon as the carrier drops, it will stop recording. And there we are, and we could now play that back. Now, the interesting thing there is we could leave it monitoring a particular channel. Anytime it hears any activity, it will record it and save them all as separate files. Or we could put it on scan, and we could leave it scanning, and each time it hears some activity on a channel, it would record that. And then when we want to stop it from doing that, we've got to go back into that menu and press stop. And it has stopped. And then in order to play it back, we just go into the appropriate menu on the function button here. And there we go. Let's have a listen. Golf 0 Foxtrot Golf X-ray, Golf 0 Foxtrot Golf X-ray, just testing. No need to reply. Looking at the back of the radio then, we've got a standard connector here for the antenna that accepts a PL259 plug, and it's just the one antenna socket for VHF, UHF and wideband everything. Quite a chunky substantial fan here, which will stop it getting too hot when you're running in 50 watts or 25 watt mode. We've got a mini DIN connector in here, and this is going to be the main way that you're going to talk to the radio if you're going to connect it to a computer for wires X or for digital modes. You'll do all that through there using optional leads that you can get from Yaesu. But you can replace the dual speakers in the radio with extension speakers using the two sockets here. It may be that if you want to use this mobile, you're going to want to separate the head from the main body of the radio. This is something we like to see in modern mobiles. Very easy. It's just a one-click button here. Off comes the head. As you can see, it's got a fairly short lead on there at the moment, but you can buy the optional longer lead for the separation kit, which will enable you to place the radio well away from the, or the main body of the radio, well away from the head. So I'll just pull it off there. And first of all, I just want to show you the back of the control head because of this little bit here, which is where you screw in a swivel ball. Why would you do that? Well, because you can get an adapter kit from Yaesu, which is the swivel adapter kit, which goes between the main body of the radio and this. And once you've screwed the ball in there and then connected it to the bit on the main body, if you're using the radio in one position, and you could use it in the shack this way as well, it means you can tilt it at all kinds of weird and wonderful angles so that you get the perfect viewing angle and perfect touching angle for you in your shack. Even if you don't have that optional kit, you can see there's a couple of screws on the side here. And that means that with the head on the body of the radio, you can lift it up and down to a certain extent just to get a better viewing angle. One other thing just to show you that when you have the head unit off, you can see there's two sockets here. That's the one that the control head plugs into, and this is a mic socket, so you can use an extension lead to plug the mic directly in to the main body of the unit there. In summary, the Yaesu FTM-500 is a great little transceiver. You could use it mobile. It makes a great little base station. As you've seen, a lot of flexibility in that. Really loud audio, which I think is great if you're going to be using it in a mobile environment. And you've got the rear speaker and the front speaker. And of course, if you were going to use it in your vehicle, you might want to put the main body of the radio somewhere discreet and just have the head unit there. So you could just use the speaker on the front of the head unit if that's what you want to do. You could do simultaneous reception of two different frequencies on the two different receivers in there that both operate at the same time, and you could have same band but different frequencies, or you could have different modes, any combination you like. You've got built-in GPS, you've got built-in APRS, and there's a whole section in the manual that explains how all of that works, because there's quite a lot to that, and I know there's a lot of aficionados of that out there, and this radio comes ready to go with all of that. You've got variable power, so 50 watts on high power, 25 watts for your middle power, and just 5 watts on low power. You've got FM and C4 FM for transmit, and it's got wideband receive, so that's going to be FM for most of it, but of course AM on the air band, and it will select that automatically. And it goes from 108 megs all the way up to 999.9 megs, and of course the cellular is blocked in the USA. They always put that in brackets, don't they? You've got the removable head so that you can tuck the body of the radio away elsewhere when you're operating it in the car. We've got the micro SD card so you can save all the settings that you've got, and there are a lot of them that you can change on this radio. Save all those to your SD card and maybe share them with a friend who's got the same radio. We've got the DT MF mic, so that comes as standard, so that's very useful if you're using Echolink or anything like that to be able to have those tones on there. And there are some of the rig functions that you can control from the microphone. I didn't mention earlier on that it has Bluetooth, so I know that's handy for a lot of mobile operators, so you can use any Bluetooth headset with it. And as we mentioned before, it is wires X compatible. So it's a lot of radio in one box.